Back to the Power 2 here on College Football Addiction. Just a couple of days away from college football being back this weekend. And it is Wednesday at noon, so we are live. TJ Pittinger, Hannifan Cole Thompson. How you doing, boys?
I think this is a perfect time for us to be really excited about everything the college football season has to offer us. This is another big weekend. Last weekend, I think it was kind of a little bit of a dip. We got really spoiled there in week one. So I'm excited about this, and especially all this stuff that's gone out there about AP voting. It's a good time to reestablish one's true commitment to the sport we love.
I got nothing today, boys. How we doing?
We're going to pull some stuff out of you here in a few minutes. But no, I agree. But last week was good. I'm not going to crap on last week's slate too much, but this week does look really phenomenal. We broke down some games earlier in the week. Those are all on the channel or will be soon if they're not already. And then we certainly have some more to talk about today. When we talked about doing a live show twice a week during the season, I thought we would only talk about games. I mean, unless something major happened, like a major injury happens or just whatever. Like I didn't think we'd talk about some of the ancillary things that have to do with college football, but we are today. And so let's get started off with the AP poll drama, which, listen, there's a lot of takes on this. There were a lot of takes on this before some different folks went viral for things that they said on interviews, which we'll play for you in a minute. It's about a 45-second clip that we'll bring up. I do think there has been a problem with the AP poll. I think there's been a problem with the coaches poll for quite some time. I don't think this is the 1990s where I think those things were important. I'm in no way or shape or form do I think we need to go to, the analytics-based model where everything is just solely based on that, because I think there are flaws with that too. But I do think the way that we have the AP model set up is pretty dumb. And I do agree with the folks that say, yeah, this does matter because it does shape public perception and it does shape where game day goes. And I know ultimately for the playoff, what really matters is the playoff committee. The playoff committee's opinions and biases are formed based on what they saw the first 8-10 weeks from the AP poll, right? Like if you'd have put, if Bama didn't have a big number next to their logo, it'd be different, right? Like, so I don't agree that it doesn't mean anything. I do think this is very important. And I don't know. How do you guys want to start? You want to go on a rant first? Do you want to show the clip first, or what do you want to do here?
Show the clip.
Okay, go for the clip.
Show the clip.
All right. So here we go.
But as far as what my votes are and what my process is, I wake up early in the morning after covering a game late in the night before. Don't want to go too much into my progress or process or logic, but I will say I appreciate everybody's interaction on social media and all of your feedback. There's tons of people that vote on the AP poll, and it's not a perfect system, but at the end of the day, no matter who you pick, it does even out because there's so many people who vote. And like I said, it's really fun for discussion. It doesn't, probably matter in the end, but I'm glad that people are having a really good time with it.
It keeps getting worse and worse as you listen to it back and as she goes on. Now, Tom and I were talking about this off air. There's a lot of things you could say. I'm not blaming. I'm not there. Anyway, no, I'm just going on.
Well,
Tom,
let me. So
you go ahead here.
Haley Sawyer starts off low key saying, "I work really hard and I work late into the night. I don't have to explain my process and my logic to all of you, and a subtle FU to people that do give feedback on that." That's basically what she said up front with a big smile on her face, and then going on into saying literally that this doesn't matter. That's what bothers college football fans the most, because whether you're a fan of Idaho or you're a fan of Alabama, this all matters to college football fans. It matters to college football teams. It matters to viewers. It matters to networks, because the points we were just saying before, you tune in for a game because it's 5 versus 8 and it has bigger implications for that. But there's a lot of issues with this, and we were talking about before we came on, is that there are so many local beat writers that get the opportunity to vote on the AP poll. it's an impossible task for people that have that type of responsibility. When you have the jobs of 4 people rolled into one, and you're paid terribly, you work horrible hours, and you're asked to then try and watch all these games. If you're a psycho and a sicko like me, you're watching the quad box every block of every Saturday because you don't have a life. Well, those are the types of people, I'm not saying myself, but people like Bud Elliott, for instance, on Cover 3. I love the Cover 3 guys. It's the reason why they're one of the best podcasts in sports in the United States. Is they literally sit in their homes and they watch every single game as much as they possibly can in the quad box, and they try and give you an informed opinion on every single thing they're looking at. So to ask someone like Haley Sawyer, or as Danny Cannell pointed out on social media, Koki Riley, who is a beat reporter from Baton Rouge, to ask these people to watch every game that involves the 50 best teams or highest profile teams, a better way to put it, in college football, it's an impossible task. So these need to be reassigned. A lot of the people that are on these, that have the opportunity to vote on the AP poll have been grandfathered in. But Josh Pate pointed out a lot of good stuff of, I don't blame the people that are voting, I blame the system. And you're giving people power. They're holding on to that power because they want to be able to flex and say, I have influence over the sport. I thought Haley Sawyer did a terrible job of defending herself. And I am condemning people that are going at her on social media for saying this has anything to do with gender. That's a horrible thing to say in this whole circumstance. So there are a lot of things wrong with this. And for instance, like Koki Riley had Alabama 2 spots ahead of Florida State. In what world is that the reality? Also had Florida 5 spots ahead of USF, and Arizona State was ranked while Mississippi State was not. And then Haley Sawyer had rankings that were also complete head scratchers. I don't have them right off the top of my head, but there are a lot of these things that just don't make any sense. And to say that, oh, it doesn't matter in the end, we're dealing with 2 bodies of human beings that are flawed. One body, the AP poll, determines rankings for like the first half of the year, and then we give it over to another body of human beings in the College Football Playoff Committee, and we get the College Football Playoff rankings the back half of the year, and we're calling out the Playoff Committee people, but we're ignoring the larger body of people for the AP poll. Both bodies, both entities need to be taken to task because we've allowed college football to become really, really subjective with people that have no idea, maybe don't care about the sport, are basing it on what happened last year or the logo that is is next to the score or whatever. Like, that's all they seem to care about sometimes. So this is badly flawed. The sport's been flawed in a lot of capacities for years. I'm glad all this has been called out.
Okay, I'll go. I guess I'm in the mood to maybe ruffle some feathers today. I don't really get anymore. Haley Sawyer, what she said, let's just make this abundantly clear. This is not a gender thing. This never needs to be a gender thing. This does not need to be a sexist thing. This does not need to be a thing that's brought up because of your wages that you make. I have no issue because I'll call you out for whoever you are, and I don't really care because that's the way that I was raised as a person. Here's what I will say. Your answer for what was the process behind it was dreadful, and it continued to get worse, and it sounded like 2007 Miss Teen South Carolina that could not come up with an actual combination of what was the problem with education in America today. Like, just stop talking if you don't know what you're talking about. But here is where I had the issue with it. I am a person that does not live in hot take culture. I'm not. If I say something, I mean it. I mean it from the bottom of my heart, and I truly believe that. You want to say, I don't need to go into my details. No, you do. No, you actually do. That is where you were 100% wrong. Because if you're going to stand behind your take, I have no problem with it. Justify it. Show me the numbers that back it up. Show me, is it because of the point differential? Is it because of the schedule that is at hand? Is it because of your process involves games that haven't already happened or games that you believe are going to have major implications later on? Those are things that you, if you want to say you have a process behind, need to show evidence for. And if you come up with a good game plan, and if you give me at least some factual information that proves that your model works in a way, I'll back off of you. Because if everybody is allowed to have a wrong opinion, and we're never gonna agree on everything. It's why they're called opinions, people. It's not why they're called factual statements. So if you have an opinion on something, that's totally fine. But don't double down. And the other thing is, you could have openly just said, guys, I worked late last night. I had a very long game. covering USC, finishing with another top 5 scoring offense in college football this week. I had to do a lot of other things, from the pregame ritual to the postgame press conference. I had to write 6 stories, and I just didn't have enough time to get my AP ballot in time, so I kind of messed up. It's on me. It was a mistake on my end. But instead of just admitting that you made a mistake, you decided to go on this long spiel about how you're not wrong. In today's culture, we as people refuse to ever admit when we are wrong. We would rather go die on the hill of us being right than actually admit that we are at fault. And Haley Sawyer could have easily done that. This isn't a gender thing. This isn't about where you rank or if you had a late night or how hard you work. I work 3 freaking jobs, including doing this, and you never hear me complain on this show about it. Because you want to know why? If I'm going to stand behind something, I'm going to provide it with factual evidence. And instead of you just saying I was tired and I didn't have an opportunity to go and truly break this down, you decided to double down on your take and say, my process is this, and it doesn't really matter. I'm sorry, Haley, it does matter. Because if you think that you aren't paying attention to the world of college football, how many of the actual college football playoff committee members, how many athletic directors, how many player personnel members, how many people with actual power in this sport are not paying attention? Because you want to know what they do with that first college football playoff ranking. They take that and they look at the AP poll and they look at the coaches poll and they kind of come up with a format together that say, these teams rank here, these teams rank here. This is a good baseline for us to start with. And unfortunately, that could lead to a team like USF that does have 2 significant wins, not in the college football playoff as the G5 representative because of where they started in the college football playoff rankings. So it is your job to be able to do those things. And it is a privilege to have that opportunity to work for a publication like the AP poll. Pate said it, Brandon Walker said it, and I truly agree with it. People who work on beats do not deserve to have an AP poll vote. It's not because of we think that podcasting and people who sit in armchairs and watch the game on Saturdays in front of the television screens are smarter than you or better than you. It's not that at all. They have more time than you. They have all the time in the world to be able to sit down and truly break every single piece of the game on what makes you a top 25 team or not. And I'm not saying it has to be me or Tom or TJ or that be somebody from Barstool or Tom Fornelli, or you could throw in a Chip Patterson. All those guys are great. It could be a slew of people. I could be one. Chip could be one. Tom Fornelli could be one. Tom Hannifan could be one. Because we sit at home and we're not inside of the games. So we have more evidence. You watch one game per week, full addendum, fully fixated on the matchup. And that's fine because you're an AP poll voter and you work for a major publication. I watch 11 to 14 games on the regular, and I'm up every single Sunday until 2 a.m. watching that late game out in the West Coast. That's what I do. So you know what? I trust my opinion more than you. But I heard Pate say something last night, and Josh Pate, please do not clip this up and say I'm coming for you at all, because of it's not this in the slightest. Talking about when he saw a kid that was driving the car and at 2 years old inside of a mall parking lot, and the kid gets out and the parent yells at the kid. And it's not the kid's fault. It's the parent's fault for leaving the keys in the car. You're 100% right. But AP voters are not children. AP voters, in my opinion, are more so like grocery store workers. Let me explain. You're not asking the grocery store worker to come on in and find $10,000 of finances that you can go ahead and turn into new deals or saving yourself some money, but you're asking them to do the bare minimum. Stock the things in the right places. Make sure that the store is tidy. That way people want to continue to come back to the store. Make sure that you ring up the right amount of pricing and you give the exact amount of change so you're not losing money. Bare minimum things that we ask from the AP voters to truly just look at this with an unbiased feel and go out and give a qualified opinion. That's what you are. We're not asking you to fix college football, but we are asking you to do the bare minimum by making sure that you get the right people and the right teams in the correct order to set a baseline for those who truly do not care about the sport and only care about the monies and the nickels and the pennies. For that to have a baseline. That's all we're asking for. I don't care that Haley Sawyer decided to go ahead and do her own rankings. I care that she decided to double down and instead of defending her rankings, say, I don't need to tell you guys. If you don't like my opinion, then that's okay. No, we don't like your opinion, but you need to explain why you have that opinion. Every single time I come on one of these shows and you guys come for me and say, oh, Cole has no idea what he's talking about, at least I'm going to back it up. At least I'm going to tell you, this is what I see versus what you see. I'm going to stand behind my take. If you can't have enough courage to be able to do that, you don't deserve a vote. And that's not a shot at her. That's a shot at any single person that has ever had an AP vote to begin with. If you don't know what you're talking about, that's totally fine. Ask for help. Don't go down with the ship and try to be wrong.
Yeah, I think the idea of, I mean, I will say this, there are some really good AP voters out there, right? Like this is not a shot at everybody that's in it. And for the most part, let's be honest, they get them fairly right? Like most of the issue comes with these anomalies, right? I think the process, the system itself is dumb, but I do think that, it's these outliers that certainly don't take the thing seriously that do have an impact for sure, because there are multiple. But I've seen AP voters own up to things. I've seen them say like, man, I meant to write USC California and I wrote US. Like it'll be the only vote for Carolina and people, and they'll own up. Hey, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. And you can go back in and you can resubmit. Like, hey, I'll make or I'll fix it next week or whatever the issue is. I've heard people say, look, I didn't get a chance to watch that game, but I did look at the box score and I made an opinion on that. Box scores sometimes lie. LSU beat Florida last year in the Swamp if you only look at the box score, right? Like and not the final score. So box scores do lie, but at least do that. I don't expect anybody to watch 40 college football games a week when they are covering a local team. That is unrealistic. There aren't enough hours to do that from the time your game ends until you have to submit your poll the next morning. So I'm not asking anybody to stay up and watch 40 games, but look at a box score. Be aware of something that happened. Be aware of the biggest upset of the season so far in USF beating Florida. That was an 18.5-point spread. This was not like, oh, Kansas, Missouri just happened to go the other way, or Notre Dame, Texas just happened to be the other way. I could live with that. But for this big one, for our two biggest upsets of the year, both happened in the last 2 weeks. A 14-point spread and an 18.5-point spread. And to have both of those teams ranked higher than the teams that beat them is wild. And it just shows an unawareness. I mean, to her credit, which is not really credit because it's still a problem, to her credit, the reason she gave such a slop BS answer was because she couldn't tell the truth of, dude, I just didn't even realize that happened. That happened while I was covering my game, and I didn't even know that happened. She couldn't say that. I mean, that'd be even worse somehow.
I'd rather you be accountable and honest than just lie and be arrogant and boastful the way that she was.
I would honestly respect you more if you did it that way. I would.
We all would, but nobody has that. Most people don't have that humility, right? Like
right, and that's the problem, is that, again, we live in a world where people want to rather be right with their wrong takes than admit fault. And that's not a her thing. That's just a person thing.
Yeah, that's a humanity issue. Any closing thoughts on this? And then we will actually talk about some ball today, guys. We won't just rant about Haley and the other.
Let's get to the games. I'm excited about the games.
I'll end with this, and we'll just move on with it. Until we see change, just understand why people don't respect the AP poll. And it's not a Haley Sawyer thing. I want to make this abundantly clear. This has nothing to do with Haley Sawyer. This has everything to do with the fact that people do not have enough time to watch the games, every single one, and they come up with opinions. There are great voters out there. I know several of them, and they always do a tremendous job. But also, I've talked to several AP voters. They'll ask around the country to people, hey, what'd you see in this game that makes you feel so highly about this team? And then when they do that, they're able to come up with more well-formed opinions. Just do that. Because of right now, it's very hard for me to take anybody in the AP poll seriously. And it's not because of a gender thing. It has everything to do with the fact of you standing on business rather than admitting when you make a mistake.
Let's play a game to get everybody in a good mood before we go too much farther on this. Let's play our more and less game presented by Sleeper. Use code CFA for a 100% match over at the Sleeper app, up to $100. Make sure you check out their terms and conditions because terms of use do apply. Gunnar Stockton in Neyland Stadium. Hey, I'll tell you this too. There is a freebie pick over on the Sleeper app. I think it's Jalen Daniels more or less than half a touchdown passing. So that might be one to add to anything you're picking this weekend if you would like to double up. But Gunnar Stockton, that was free, by the way. Nobody even asked for that, but you're welcome out there listening. Gunnar Stockton, 205. We previewed this game on Monday, but 205 and a half passing yards in Neyland Stadium. This is discounted. They're wanting you to take the more because it is discounted that way. It's intentionally low. I mean, I'm a sucker for it. What it should be is about 225. I'll take the more on this one.
I'm going to be a contrarian and take the under. I just am not sold on Gunnar Stockton yet. And this is as high profile game as they've got so far this season. And Tennessee, this is at Tennessee. Am I correct? You just said at Neyland. Yeah. It could be trouble.
I'll go more simply because of Ricky Gibson and Jamal McCoy for Tennessee are not playing in this game. So I think that will give a couple of advantages to where you'll get the explosive plays downfield for Georgia.
Same game. Joey Aguilar will go the other way. We'll go Cole and snake it back. 1.5 passing touchdowns, more or less.
I'll go less. I think this is going to be a game where if you know anything about Josh Heupel's offense, they want to run the football. They're great with running the football. They utilize the ground game to set up the passing attack. I think that you'll see the explosive plays, but you're relying more so on guys like Star Thomas, Peyton Lewis, Deshaun Bishop inside the red zone for 6 points.
I'll go more. In the words of Joey Aguilar's dad, we say thank you to Nico, and it's clear who won the trade. So I'm excited about what Aguilar and company have done. Granted, the competition's about to go way up, but I'm an Aguilar believer thus far. I'll stick with the more.
Yeah, I want to go more on this as well. And the reason why is because when we broke this game down, Cole's thing was that this could be an explosive type game. This could be something where, you get some stuff over the top. Now, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I took the more on Castellanos' passing touchdowns. He had 2 guys tackled on the 3-yard line. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen to Aguilar if I take the more, but I'll take the more on Joey as well. I'm gonna skip one, go down to Marcel Reed, more or less 1.5 passing touchdowns. I'll start this one. I'm going less here. I think Notre Dame plays really well in this. We'll break this game down in a little bit. I like less just because I wonder how close to 100% Marcel really is. That's my biggest worry in this one. If he's 100%, I'd probably feel decent about the more. I don't love their rushing attack just yet. But because of the concerns around his health, not that he's out or I think he'll play, but just the concerns there make me think I like the less on this one. Cole?
I go more. I think that Marcel Reed so far has been the least talked about high profile quarterback this season, the way that he's played against UTSA and Utah State. 8 touchdowns on the year, no turnovers. I know he's not fully healthy, but they got 2 really good wide receivers and a solid tight end. I think you're going to need to see the passing attack work if you want to win out in South Bend.
Give me less. I do not believe in Marcel Reed yet. I agree that, yes, he had good games against UTSA and Utah State, 66% completion percentage, 7 passing touchdowns, the leading rusher as well. So there's still some things to be desired when it comes to Texas A&M and who's the bell cow running back. If it's the quarterback, his durability is going to be an issue as the season goes on. He did not inspire a lot of faith in me last season, and in my opinion, it's too early to all of a sudden be a Reed believer. So I will go less.
Last one on this page, and then we'll flip over. Haynes King, 48.5.
More, always more. I don't even know what was it, rushing? Is it rushing?
48.5.
Absolutely more.
This again worries me because of his health, but I think they are going to run. They run him into the ground.
His health. That's the process at Georgia Tech. No one cares about Haynes King's well-being. They care about winning football games in Atlanta, by the way. That's going to be a big game here at noon against Clemson. I'm in Atlanta right now. My girlfriend doesn't want to go to the game, so we're probably not going to the game. But honestly, give me Haynes King for 1 billion yards rushing. More.
Can I fly up and be your girlfriend for the day? Because that would be like, that's awesome. I've told you guys since the
right here.
This is one of my favorite games of the year. Haynes King does not care about Haynes King's body.
So he doesn't.
Why would the hell would Georgia Tech care about his body? I'm going to take the more. There's just a part of me that says he's got that dog in him in this matchup.
Haynes King and Max Duggan are related. Not really, but they basically are. So I believe that they have the same lack of concern for their health and well-being. So
Tua Tagovailoa is their cousin as well. So.
Yes.
He just doesn't know it. Meant that multiple ways.
Exactly.
Cade Klubnik, 260.5 passing yards against that same Georgia Tech defense.
Less. Cade Klubnik put together a nice season last year. I think there was a lot of positivity about him coming into this year. He just does not look right. Maybe with Dabo Swinney calling him out publicly, that'll spark something for Clemson. But I just don't love this matchup for Klubnik.
I go less, but it's not because of Klubnik. I actually think that he's going to have a very solid game. We don't know the stats of Antonio Williams. And in a matchup like this, where you're going to have Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore having to be the 2 X factors, you take away one, you're going to force feed a lot of passes downfield to the other. You don't have that third weapon right now. So I think less because of Antonio Williams' status is so detrimental to this team's success.
Jeremiah Love, 77. I'll go less on this too. Sorry. Jeremiah Love, 77.5 rushing yards. I'll go more here. I think you're going to get a healthy dose of Love and Price, and I do think they feature him a ton against a Texas A&M defensive line that I don't know if they have the depth to keep up. So I'll go more here. We'll preview this game here in just a minute.
I will go more. Hopefully, Notre Dame learned its lesson from the game against Miami. Get Love the ball more than you did.
You have the best running back in college football on your roster, and you proceed to have him finish third in rushing attempts. Mike Denbrock, learn your lesson. More, and more. And simply do more, because if you got to run it 77 times with him, he'll hit the over just because of that. So give me more, because I think that this is a game where you have to trust his legs.
Garrett Nussmeier, 1.5 passing touchdowns. It's our last one for today.
Who's LSU got this weekend?
Florida.
The mighty Florida Alex Golishes.
More. Sad times for those that reside in the swamp.
I said in the preview this past week, this will be the best version of Florida that we have seen. I think that you will get a great Florida defense that comes and delivers. Still more touchdowns.
What a setup there. I don't usually wear a hat, but I wanted to match you guys. And so wearing this hat today makes me feel good that Cole said that. Yeah, I'll go more as well. I mean, I could see them running with some success, but I like Florida's defensive line. And so I could see them having to pass the ball a little bit. And it would, I won't say it would shock me, but I think 1.5 is a good number there for Nussmeier. Again, go check out the Sleeper app. Way more than just the games that we play on there. We appreciate Sleeper for their support. All right, we talked about this a little bit in our more or less game, but Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. The Aggies go into South Bend looking for revenge from last week. Cole, we'll start with you just because it's an SEC matchup, but then we'll go around the horn and talk about this big game on Saturday night.
Yeah, who would have thought that everybody in the country would be talking about Notre Dame going 0-2 potentially to begin the year, and their college football playoff hopes becoming basically unknown. And I think it's funny. Sorry, let's just call it as is. If you think that Notre Dame, if they don't get 10-2, is missing the college football playoff, you're out of your mind. Now, they got to start winning after this, and they can't afford another loss, but 10-2 is still getting you in the playoffs. It wasn't a good overall game plan from Mike Denbrock, but I think that, again, it's a week off. You get to reevaluate. And CJ Carr, who was a very, very, very solid quarterback in this game, I think is going to end up delivering once again. He's not the problem that you have right now. It's the play calling, and it's the design, and it's the overall offensive line getting bullied by Miami's front seven, which I think Texas A&M could do. Texas A&M is looking for their signature road win for the first time since 2014. There was a stat that was proven this past week that Texas A&M has not beaten a top 25 team on the road by a roster that finished the year inside the top 25. So they've won against top 25 teams, but they haven't beaten a team that constantly remains in that 25 when we get to December. I don't think anybody is worried about what Notre Dame's going to be if they continue to be at least a 9-3 team. They will finish in the top 25. Neither rushing attack has been really promising so far. You know, you look at what happened for Notre Dame last week. They didn't trust Jadarian Price. They didn't trust Jeremiah Love. Was injury a factor? Perhaps, but still, you went with more so carries with your quarterback in CJ Carr. If you are Mike Denbrock, you got to trust the ground game. Texas A&M had its fair share of struggles with Robert Henry at UTSA. He averaged 7.7 yards a play. So this is a defensive line that can win its one-on-one battles, but it will allow these second chance opportunities past the line of scrimmage for a running back to be able to get those yards. That needs to be the emphasis if you are Notre Dame in this matchup, is trusting that you have two running backs that could easily set you up in second and short or open up the playbook for a third down passing play. You don't have to wonder, this is what we're doing on this formation. We're going to make a lot of plays because of it. Texas A&M's defense as well is going to have to, I think, show up in the secondary because of last season. That was the downfall. You know, everyone looks at the 7-1 team and how well they had performed offensively coming off of a win against LSU, and then they proceeded to crumble, and they looked dreadful against Auburn. They looked dreadful against USC in the Las Vegas Bowl. And Mike Elko basically said this offseason, I will whip this secondary into shape. And if it doesn't look the way I will make them run laps until they do. And so now you have an opportunity with a good wide receiving room that did show off last 2 weeks down South Florida to be able to deliver in this matchup. Your secondary is going to have to slow down guys like Jaden Greathouse and Will Pauling in the tight end position. You have to make CJ Carr beat you through the air on very big, explosive, deep shots. You cannot allow him to win on the short to intermediate game, because if you do that, it allows you to open up the running attack. And that's going to be something that I think A&M really is going to have trouble with in this matchup. On the flip side, for Texas A&M's offense, can you start running the football well? The thing that you look at is some people poise Notre Dame is having the best 1-2 combination in college football, or one of the best 1-2 combinations. And I would agree with that. Maybe Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, you could argue. But Texas A&M has 4 guys that all would start for most teams. You have Lavian Moss. You have Amari Daniels. Ruben Owens is fully healthy. He is going to be a factor in this game. And you have EJ Smith, not to mention 2 other 4-star running backs from the last 2 recruiting classes that probably would have extensive reps at G5 programs. So can you establish the run and maybe just do a little bit more than what Miami did? Miami averaged less than 4 yards a play, but they were able to set up the passing attack for Carson Beck just to dink and dunk his way down the field for easy scores. Can you do something along those ways? Marcel Reed is going to have to find his connectivity the way that he did against UTSA and Utah State. With Kevin Concepcion, it's going to have to be that way. He has been such a gem so far in the SEC. He has been one of the best receivers in college football up to this point. He has meshed so well in this Colin Klein offense. And this is going to be a game where this is why you were brought in here. You were meant to come to College Station to help us win these signature matchups, help us win these games on the road where we know that we may end up having 1 or 2 plays that just is designed to you, and it's a gotta-have moment. And I think that they can. They very well can because of the way that Marcel Reed has looked. The X factor in this game for me, regardless of how I feel, is going to come down to the offensive line and the defensive front. And what do I mean by that? Do you guys remember what happened in that game against Miami? Basically, the fourth quarter came and Ruben Bain took over. It was a nightmare for anybody who was watching the right side of the offensive line. Ruben Bain pulverized everybody. You have a pass rusher in Cassius Howell down in Texas A&M. Last week, 3 straight plays, 3 straight sacks against Utah State. Now, I'm not saying that Utah State and and Notre Dame have the same offensive line. What I'm saying is that Cassius Howell can be a game changer. He can rack up some things, and he can definitely put you in a position where your offense becomes one-dimensional, and it has to be. So can you control him off of the edge? And on the flip side, can Texas A&M's veteran line control this defensive line that didn't get a lot of pressure on Carson Beck in that matchup, but they had a week to regroup, recover, and get healthier at the right time, which may end up being a blessing in disguise because of now they know what is their strength and what is their weakness, what are some areas that they're going to have to make some changes or adjustments where maybe they corral the box and force you to have to win through the air.
Kind of the points we were hitting on before, I hope that Freeman and Denbrock learn their lesson from the Miami game. This sets up well for Notre Dame in a lot of ways. CJ Carr did not play badly against Miami for a freshman first-time starting quarterback on the road, difficult environment. You get the week to chill, and now you're going to start your first game for Notre Dame at home. So there's a comfort with that. It's an old trope in college football, but I really think it's the truth. The team that wins the turnover battle in this one will walk away with the win. The thing that concerns me for Texas A&M, you gave up 6.2 yards per carry to UTSA. You've given up roughly 20 to 24 points per game, if I remember, in both your games against Utah State and UTSA. I like Notre Dame's ability to run the football against this Texas A&M team. I completely agree with Cole's point about whichever offensive line controls the line of scrimmage. Yep, they're going to have a lot of success in this one. I don't trust Marcel Reed to win this game through the air. I think he has weapons that are certainly exciting and could hurt Notre Dame. But to all the points you were just saying, Carson Beck, I think no one's confusing him for Marcel Reed and vice versa. Carson Beck has better weapons, I would say, and did a really nice job against that Notre Dame passing defense, that is. So I just like Notre Dame in this one. I think it's close, but for all the reasons I just said, I think if Notre Dame is able to get the turnover situation under control, because that wasn't necessarily great against Miami. They had an interception from Carr, a fumble that was lost, 2 total fumbles in the game. They've got to tighten that up in this game if they want to beat the Aggies.
Yeah, I have a hard time. I just have too many questions for A&M. And there are some questions for Notre Dame, but I think some of them got answered. And CJ Carr was my biggest one coming into this season, and I thought he looked good, and if that's their biggest issue. Now, I mean, this is important, and so you kind of wonder how pressure factors in, how the bye week factors in. What was A&M holding back against Utah State and UTSA? So I do think there are certainly pathways for Texas A&M to go out and get this done, especially the explosive ability of their wide receiver duo in Craver and Concepcion. But I like Notre Dame here. I like them by about a touchdown. So I do like them, if the spread's 6.5 at kickoff, then I still like that. I like 28-21, a nice even score, even though I've tried to avoid that. I've got Notre Dame winning this by about a touchdown.
I have this being a 38-31 finish just because of I think there's going to be a lot of explosive plays. I'm going to turn that back a little bit. I think that this is going to be more of a ground and pound attack in which quarterback makes a few more just decisive reads. I will give credit. CJ Carr looked awesome in his first game, and he feels like that he's only going to get better. Like the way that we came away with the Bryce Underwood performance in the Oklahoma game, we don't think that he's the problem. We know what the issue is out in Ann Arbor. I think that right now you wonder about what is the issue with Notre Dame's overall offensive personnel. I just think that Marcel Reed has one extra throw in him this game. And I think that he's tired of not being considered one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. And he wants to have that signature win. I think Texas A&M has built itself up for a signature win. And by all against me, for apparently the biggest Texas A&M hater in the SEC, I like the Aggies to get a win on the road. I think this is a signature moment for why you brought on in Mike Elko to begin with. Defensively, they're going to be able to get one critical stop. And offensively, this is the Colin Klein show where he ends up proving why he was the right OC and why Marcel Reed was the right quarterback to bank on going into the offseason.
I'll say this to the points you were saying about CJ Carr. I thought he did play well. I thought they were having him do a Haynes King impression, a Riley Leonard impression, a little more than it looked like he was comfortable with handling. I don't need to see CJ Carr running the ball. What was it, 11 times against Miami? I would rather a chunk of those carries go to somebody other than CJ Carr. You have some very talented running backs. So I like Texas A&M to cover the spread, but ultimately lose. I like Notre Dame 21-17.
Again, for me personally, I could be entirely wrong on Notre Dame winning this football game. That spread is just too good not to take Texas A&M.
Yeah. All right, so you're not supposed to play the transitive property in college football, but when a team plays an opponent back-to-back weeks, or two different teams play an opponent back-to-back weeks, and one needs like some special teams magic to get a win, and the other just absolutely dominates the second half on the road, man, it's hard to not think about the transitive property. I know matchups are different. I know Cole's going to give us a good breakdown on South Carolina and Vandy, but watching how both teams played to open the season, you got to be more impressed with the way that Vandy looked than South Carolina did against Virginia Tech. So going on the road to Columbia is a much different story. Williams-Brice, we've talked about it. Lenora Sellers versus Diego Pavia, two similar quarterbacks, but certainly have a little more faith in Sellers. Certainly lean South Carolina here, but Cole, what's the path for Vandy to get this done?
Okay, so tell me that 2 years ago, you were going to know that Diego Pavia from New Mexico State and this kid from Florence, Alabama that was known for wearing rec specs could have massive implications on the SEC. Tell me you knew that story. Because if nobody knew that this was going to be one of these signature matchups, we don't talk about it enough. And I have not seen many people at the national level bring up what this game means to both sides. For starters, Vanderbilt hasn't won in 16 contests, and this was an annual rivalry when it was the SEC East and SEC West because they played in the same division. They haven't won a matchup since Steve Spurrier's fourth year. Spurrier's going on 10 years retired at this point. So it has been a lopsided performance, even in downtimes for South Carolina. They just seem to have Vanderbilt's number. And to be completely transparent, the way that Vanderbilt looked against a team in their backyard versus the way that South Carolina looked against the exact same team on a neutral site field, you would lean Vanderbilt. They feel more polished offensively. They feel like that they have a better offensive line. They're generating a good pass rush. They rank in the top 25 in every single offensive metric and top 30 in every single defensive metric. You don't have that right now when it comes to South Carolina. They're only ranked inside the top 70 in one spot, and that's total yards per game. They rank 93rd in passing. They rank 97th in rushing. They rank 115th, I believe, in scoring. And also, they have the worst offensive line currently in the SEC. They've allowed 6 sacks in 2 games, including 3 by a South Carolina State team that was able to at least make this interesting in the first half before we saw Bakari Swain punt return for a touchdown. 2 Bakari Swain punt return for a touchdown. Might as well throw that in there. So how is Vanderbilt going to win this game? They're going to win the time of possession. They're going to be able to move the football efficiently on third down. That was an issue that was very much a problem for South Carolina's defense against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech just had turnovers at ill-advised times. That became such a major, major issue to where you saw capitalization from South Carolina. They're going to be able to, I think, walk away with points inside the red zone. And I'm saying that not selling for 3, they're going to have to get 6 because the problem is that you don't want Lenore Sellers to have that opportune moment where he just takes off and runs, gets to the second and third level of defense, and then he is off to the races for 6 points, 70-yard run, 50-yard run, and he can do those things. I think the other thing is that you're going to have to continue to see that rapport with Trey Richardson. He absolutely, in my opinion, was the difference so far for this offense from last season. It feels like that he has come on to Nashville and become a major staple of this passing attack. It's clear he is the number one receiver outside of Eli Stowers, the tight end. So can you eliminate his role and force you to have to work the intermediate part of the field where a Fred Johnson is sitting, who's a great linebacker, and taking over the mantle for Debo Williams from a season ago? The thing that I'm really interested in this matchup for South Carolina's side is, can you have one receiver break on out? You got it. And this was something that we talked about throughout the entire offseason and something that was an issue that I had with South Carolina going into the year. I liked that Nick Harbor was no longer running track and field. I like the fact that you had Amazio Bennett kind of take over that game. And I like the fact that you had two tight ends in Brady Hunt and Michael Smith that you could trust to be really good players as a replacement for Josh Simon. But I wanted a veteran. I wanted somebody from the portal that you could just say, he could be a difference maker. And it didn't have to be like, a superstar name, or it didn't have to be like a Ryan Wingo that maybe was going to have a little bit of an off the field issue, but just somebody to take pressure off and has been in this element before. And they said, no, we want to trust our freshman receivers. We like our receiving group. Okay, this is a moment that they're going to have to show up. This is a moment where they're going to have to prove that you are better than advertised and that you have taken the necessary jump forward to where you can believe this team is going to be more transcendent, more polished, and certainly be able to win its one-on-one battles. I know that you're going to get placed to Nick Harbor. I know you're going to get placed to Brady Hunt. But is it a Brian Rowe? Is it a Donovan Murph? Is it a Lex Cyrus? Is it a Jaden Sellers? Who is going to be that freshman that we were so encapsulated with throughout all of spring practice that lives up to the moment in this matchup? Or is it going to be Van Jacob? Is it going to be not Jacobs? Is it going to be Jared Brown, who could have a very, very good performance in this game like he did last week and caught that touchdown pass? I think that this is really going to come down to the quarterbacks. And I think that also you have to realize these are two guys that are wanting to win so badly, and they play a game in a similar but different style. Both are physical, and they will do anything to get that first down. I think when it comes to Diego Pavia, the thing that stands out about him is that he has very good control of the offense, and he knows in a more timely manner when to tuck and run, when to be able to move it downfield. That is going to be something that I think is majorly critical for South Carolina in this game. You can't wait for a receiver to get on open Lenore Sellers. Sometimes you're just going to have to play Superman, and you're going to have to hope that you can get that first yard.
What's the thing that concerns you the most for South Carolina about Vandy?
For South Carolina about Vandy, you have Lenore Sellers as your quarterback. I mean, that's just kind of the basic line. I could say that the defense is going to end up having a big time pick, and that if you give them good field position, you can trust special teams to get the job done because it's a Beamer ball staple. But it's the fact that you have Lenore Sellers. I mean, Sellers just does things that at some point you have to ask yourself, how do you stop it? And there is no answer. It's just say thank you for doing what you did, get off the field, and now we have to respond. And that's something that I think is going to keep South Carolina in every single game. It's something that I think is going to be very beneficial to allow him to create second chances. What I also will say is, I think that this is one of those games where you have to be able to have a secondary element in the rushing attack. And that could very well be, it could be Rasul Faison, who got that eligibility waiver. It could be an Oscar Attaway. Somebody's going to have to take some pressure off of Sellers to be that dude. But the fact of the matter is you have Sellers. So because of you have a quarterback that has willinged his team to a victory multiple times last year, including the Clemson game, he is still the guy that's leading the charge. If you have him, you have a shot.
I like this to be closer than the spread. I don't know that I have the faith that Vandy can go in here and get the win, but I will take South Carolina 31-28. Cole, I'll let you finish. Tom, score.
I got this being 24-21. I just trust you got a quarterback down in Columbia, South Carolina, and 86,000 screaming war chickens listen to Sandstorm at Willie B. 21-4-21 final score. Give me South Carolina over Vanderbilt.
Give me the upset. I like Vanderbilt 34-31. Having the common denominator opponent really helps you actually make a good evaluation of these teams. I've seen a lot of people jump to the conclusion after the win against Virginia Tech for South Carolina that Lenore Sellers should be the Heisman favorite, all that sort of stuff. I have yet to see him just dominate a game this season. And considering the way that they really just didn't run the ball very effectively against South Carolina State, a little worrisome. I like a motivated Vanderbilt team going to South Carolina and pulling off the upset.
The thing I will say, just real fast before we move on, I am very much an adamant proponent that the AP poll messed up when it came to USF. They messed up by not ranking Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has the better win and the better performance against a same common opponent. So if you just want to add more fuel to the fire to guarantee that they will see a number attached to their name for the rest of the season and potentially start off the year 5-0, yeah, I can understand a world where Diego Pavia is able to wield his way to yet another victory for the Doors out in Nashville.
Moving on, another upset that we'll try to will into existence. I don't know how successful we'll be, but is it America's team? The USF Bulls shout out Tampa, Florida. Listen, my fandom for the Bulls has reached new heights, even as a previous season ticket holder. Has reached new heights after last weekend. I just really struggle to see them going and doing it 3 weeks in a row. They're not sneaking up on Miami. I think Miami's trenches are better than Florida's. I think Miami's a better team than Florida. Miami has a better quarterback than Florida. Don't let the Florida fans hear that, though. They may agree after this last week or so. I think that this is a daunting task for USF. But we are talking about a ranked USF team going on the road. Not that tough of an environment. To Coral Gables to play Miami. Tom, you got any hope for the Bulls?
I certainly have hope. Like, my heart really wants to see USF pull this off. And I still think they'll wind up being the group of 5 team when it's all said and done in the college football playoff. The rest of their schedule sets up very nicely. This game just does not set up very nicely. It's not a great matchup in general. The deficiencies that Florida showed, we knew were there. We knew what the floor was for the Gators, right? We're still kind of learning what the floor could possibly be for Miami. Best bet is USF is going to have to duplicate, especially the performance they had against Boise State and Maddox Madsen, where they just made him uncomfortable. They stuffed the run. They had Madsen guessing where the pressure was coming from throughout that game. They would have to do that to a veteran quarterback in Carson Beck, who has seen everything at the college level, at the SEC level, and now the ACC level. The big win against Notre Dame to start off the season at home. He's very comfortable. He looks very comfortable at the helm of this offense. I like their weapons. I like their offensive line to be able to repel what USF could possibly bring from a defensive standpoint. And then most of the offense for USF has come from Byron Brown, whether it's throwing the ball, obviously, or rushing the football. So if this is a Miami team that can hit him early and make him feel the Haynes King pain, then yeah, this is a situation that I think favors Miami. I will say I don't love this spread. The spread is not giving a lot of respect to South Florida. I do think the Bulls are able to cover the spread, but I think Miami wins this one convincingly enough, 35-17.
Cole.
Look, how would this upset happen is, I guess, the biggest question. 2 things. Number one, Byron Brown gives you a Heisman-worthy performance. He just finds ways to be able to create second-chance opportunities and will his team to a win with explosive passes downfield and some good runs. The other thing that's really important is that, what do we know about Miami's secondary at this point? We don't know a lot. They had a great game plan, and they felt night and day different from a season ago underneath the brand new defensive coordinator. It was against Notre Dame, and they were able to force incompletions in. They were able to force a couple of turnover, and they were able to force the turnover battle. But is it really improved, or are we giving too much credit to what Notre Dame is as an offensive passing attack? You know, maybe this was just a really bad overall offensive identity from Notre Dame when it comes to their weaponry, and you still have those faults from Miami secondary that was torched last season in the ACC. Constant time. So much so that they basically rebuilt the entire thing overnight. So you don't know really what Miami secondary is. So can you win those one-on-one battles on the 20-yard plays downfield? My big theory is just, I think that Alex Golesh knows he's a killer. I think most people know that Alex Golesh can easily dismantle your season. But you caught everyone on at the right time. Like, everyone is now paying attention to you. Everyone knows who you are. And again, it doesn't help that we've been talking about USF all week for the wrong reasons about a ranking in the AP poll. Which, by the way, if you think that USF doesn't belong ranked because of they lose to Miami, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, honestly, at this point, they have 2 ranked wins. They belong inside the top 25, regardless of what this matchup is. But now everybody is watching who USF is. They're calculating every single move. They're breaking down film. They're studying what is the strength and the weakness of this team. And I think when you're a prisoner of the moment and you overhype a roster, whether or not you think that they belong inside the top 25, because they do, people are going to have to come back down to reality of what do you have for Miami? It's a veteran quarterback. It's one of the best offensive lines in the country. It's a solid run game. It's good weaponry. And it's a quarterback that I think can do the bare minimum of just finding open receivers and moving the ball efficiently to where you win the time of possession battle. If let's say you win, let's just say USF lost last week and they lost by, I don't know, a touchdown. You would have the attention, but not a lot of people would be so fixated on what USF is. So I think that that's something to where you got the win and now people are watching you. That's not a good recipe. And the game is also on the road for USF. So you're going to need a lot of things to go your way, I think, just for you to even make this a battle that people are going to be talking about.
I think USF is going. Now, I said this for Florida State, so maybe the same happens. I think USF is going to need some things to break their way. As bad as, or as impressive as their win was, Florida shot themselves in the foot repeatedly, dropping passes, missing wide open targets in the red zone, not being very efficient on special teams in certain situations. This was a game that if Florida just finishes in the red zone, they go up to the half 17-3 and probably are able to hold on. Right. And so that's in an upset type bid. You're going to need some help from Miami if you're USF. USF can do all the things right. And if Miami plays a good game, they're going to win this 9 out of 10 times. You're going to need Miami to, and maybe 9 is even conservative there with the difference in talent. But I do think that you're going to need Miami to help you the same way Florida did. Whether that's a punt over a kicker's head, whether that's a bad penalty late, or that's not finishing in the red zone. Shoot, it took all those things for Florida to lose this game, right? Florida made mistake after mistake after mistake, and Lagway wasn't sharp, and all of those things are true. And if any one of those things goes Florida's way, it's still not a great win, but they win, right? And so I think you need similar. Not to discredit USF, but because of the gap in talent, I do think you need similar levels of Miami kind of shooting themselves in the foot, which this is a Mario Cristobal team. Like that is possible. Like there's no doubt about it. And USF's talented enough to take advantage. They're not playing UConn this week, right? So Byron Brown goes off. USF gets some gifts on them like they did against Florida. That's your path to an upset. I don't see it. I think Miami wins this thing. Shoot, I don't even know if I haven't done a prediction yet for this week, so I don't have a note to go look at. Yeah, I think Miami wins fairly easily, 31-20, and that might even be like a late score by USF to make it a little bit closer. I don't trust their offense to be consistent enough, and so I'll say my 31-20 Miami. Cole?
34-20 Miami. I do think that 17.5 point line is far too rich. I think it's a very big disrespect to what you have for USF. They get a late touchdown to make sure that they guarantee that they get the backdoor cover.
I need to hold myself accountable because my math was terrible. Nobody told me there would be any math. I said 35-17, but I think USF will cover the spread. The spread's 60.5, so give me 35-20 for Miami. Just
to make sure that we keep it in there. All right, we'll stay in the ACC on this one. Georgia Tech at Clemson. Is this a must-win for Dabo Swinney here?
Oh, no, this is Clemson at Georgia Tech.
At Georgia Tech.
At Bobby Dodd, baby. Haynes and Haynes. Let's go.
The law firm that is.
I still think Clemson wins this game. Like, as much as I love the law firm and I love what Haynes King is all about, I love what this team is all about. I think this is like a get-right game for Clemson, if that makes any sense. So the points we were talking about earlier, Cade Klubnik looks a little shaky, gets called out by his head coach in the public. It's been a good start, but not a great start for Clemson. Obviously, the D versus an F grading for the LSU game that Dabo Swinney put out there, Brian Kelly, those guys having a lot of fun with that. Honestly, I just think Clemson defensively will have the right answers for Georgia Tech. The spread is 3.5 in the favor of Clemson. It's going to be a hostile environment, but I think Clemson gets the job done. The over-under is 54.5, and I think you guys know I love me some unders. Give me an under in this one. I think this is going to feel very leather helmet football. Georgia Tech kind of leans that way anyway, but give me Clemson like 20-17.
Here's the way that I view this. I know what I'm getting in Georgia Tech's offense. I know what I am. I know who they are as a program. I know what their identity is. I know they're going to run it. I know they're going to be physical. I know you're going to have a quarterback that will do everything in his power to yield his body forward to get into the end zone. And you also have two wide receivers that still have yet to have their big breakout performance in Rutherford and Eric Rivers. And I think that they will. I do. I just have this gut feeling that there are two names, and you throw in Dean Patterson, who had a good game last week against Gardner Webb. He's going to have to deliver, and one of them is going to have that marquee signature catch or big-time play. I think that when you look at Clemson right now, we don't know what their offensive identity is. We don't. We know they can't run the football to save their life. We know that they are dreadful at being able to win with play action pass. And I think that you also look at what's missing when it comes to that spark from Kay Klubnik. It's not there right now. And it took a while for it to get there last season. That Pitt game where he tucked and ran it and was able to evade the tackle to push forward for an easy touchdown and really kind of save Clemson's season. We haven't seen that just yet. And I think that when you don't know what the status is of Antonio Williams and you're banking a lot on Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore to have to be those guys against a not great but not terrible secondary, and you don't have the ability to run the football, it's very challenging for me to buy stock into you. And I think that you got to remember, last season, the identity was the reason we saw Georgia Tech hold its own against Miami and get the upset win. Take Georgia in Athens to, 7 overtimes? It's the culture that has been indoctrinated underneath Brent Key. And this was one of the best matchups that I said at the start of the year was going to have massive implications for the playoff. This was a matchup that I said was going to be very much a gotta-have moment just to prove that Georgia Tech has turned the corner and proven itself as a qualified team for the college football playoff. And this is a moment that I think is going to be massive for the ACC to guarantee it gets 2 qualified teams in for the postseason. And I'm not changing my pick. It's been Georgia Tech since the offseason. I'm sticking with Georgia Tech. Early kick. I know what I'm getting in the offense. I think the defense is going to do just enough to get the job done. I got a 24-21 final score. I think that you will see the Yellow Jackets hum their way to a victory at Bobby Dodd Stadium.
I would like to see the upset here. And even, I certainly don't dislike Clemson like I dislike, the other two rivals for Florida State. I'm pretty indifferent and don't really consider that same kind of rivalry. But yeah, I'd like to see Georgia Tech win this. I think it's great for college football. I love Brent Key a lot. I'm not a Dabo hater by any means. And I picked Kay Klubnik as like QB1, even though that doesn't seem to be the case as we've been through, a sixth of the season so far. All that said, I want to know how truly healthy Haynes King is. And that's a tough thing to know. I thought Philo looked good. They were playing an absolute nobody. And I know he has experience from last year too. But if there's a chance that he's got to come in and take reps and he's got to come in and play, I do have a lot of faith in Clemson's defense. And that's where I think things get tricky. And that's why I would lean that unknown has me feeling a little bit more confident in Clemson. If Haynes King is 95+% and stays 95+% the entire game, doesn't get banged up, doesn't have to come out, they don't have to go to the backup, then I really do think that Georgia Tech has a great chance to win this thing. I do think things click for Clemson at some point this year. I think their schedule coming up after they play Georgia Tech is wildly easy until they get to November and have to play Florida State, Louisville, and South Carolina. And so they're going to win a lot of games one way or the other. The question to me is, does Clemson click before it's too late, or can they get it done now and really just need a split between Louisville and Florida State at the end of the year to earmark their way into Charlotte? So those are the questions I have going into this game. I'll lean Clemson with very little confidence out of what I've seen so far. The Haynes King, kind of injury or just being banged up, sitting out loud like that always is a little bit of a concern to me. And then, again, I do think Clemson clips, and maybe it's this week, maybe it's not. I'll go Clemson 24-21. So I'll just steal somebody else's score and reverse it a little bit. But
I would like to make a bold proclamation. There is no apple cider vinegar or anything like that. But if Georgia Tech wins this game, guaranteed 2 teams from the ACC will make the college football playoff, not a third. This may be the year that you do get 3.
Let's do some rapid fire just really quick. We're actually a couple minutes over time, so we'll go really fast on this. Just quick thoughts. How about Sark's? Now, we were going to talk a little bit about is Arch hurt? Is he not hurt? What's the situation there in Texas? He seems to be wincing on some throws. I've seen multiple people point this out. Did you see Sark's snark. Oh, yeah, maybe a good
Ah.
did you see Snark snap? Although Snark was fine. Did you see Steve snap back at the reporter that asked this in an assumptive way, which Sark did a good job of snapping back at this. Just overall thoughts here.
Tom, I'll let you go first because I just want to make this quick.
Yeah, I found it an odd comparison to when someone's going number 2. Starting quarterback is trying to throw a slant route over the middle. There's been a lot of stuff that's popped up on social media of his Manning face from many years back to high school. It looks like this is just kind of the expression that he makes. So obviously the microscope on Arch Manning is Tim Tebow-esque. So if this guy does take a number 2, everybody pays attention to it. So it just seems like this is just the what he does when he throws the football. So it's like, okay, yeah. But if he is really hurt, we'll find out sooner rather than later.
Number 1, this is Manning face. Everybody knows that each person in that household has a Manning face. This is just simply Arch's. And number 2, Steve, I'm going to be completely honest here. You could have mentioned a workout. You could have mentioned us writing. You could have mentioned us overtime with the hours when we're laid up in the press box. The difference between us taking photos of Arch Manning on the sidelines and watching his face wince and you taking photos of us in the bathroom when we go number 2 is one is going to be profitable. The other one is a felony in most states. How about we don't take pictures of us in the bathroom, Steve?
Yeah, I don't know if I buy the whole that's just the face he makes or not. It feels like there's something there, but I did like Sarkisian's response, and I thought it was good. I thought it was good how he snapped back and was kind of questioning, like, who's confirmed that to you? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? The bathroom thing was weird, but
so that's just a confirmation that TJ wants to watch Tom and I go number 2. That's just it, because he agrees to that.
I mean, I'm sure there are times we've all made that Manning face, but I don't normally. Things are, I know that people didn't tune in to hear this, but it is the power too. So, pun intended. I don't typically make that face. Like, that's not, if you do, you should see a doctor, right? And that you should, yeah.
I may miss next week's show because I have to go to the
Cole, were you impressed by Alabama? Let's quick rapid fire this. Were you impressed by Alabama beating the hell out of ULM? I know but they still are an FBS team, which if you believe in FPI at all, which I know people get mad about that, they're like a top 100-ish team or right around that line. I mean, I do think that I thought the result was more impressive than Florida State's even, but thoughts on Alabama through 2 weeks?
Ty Simpson looked awesome. 17-17 against any team with 4 touchdown passes is going to at least catch my attention. The 2 things I had an issue with, and I don't really care what the penalties were, they still were a more penalized team than ULM, which is bothersome to me because it's a constant theme so far since the end of the Nick Saban era and throughout the Kalen DeBoer era. And number 2, I just don't have enough information based off of what we saw from this defense and what we've seen from the offensive personnel to truly think that the team has turned the corner. You hung 73 on them. When you play Wisconsin, a Wisconsin team that I don't have a lot of faith in. They've already turned to Danny O'Neal as their quarterback because Billy Edwards is out with an injury. If you beat up on them, I'll start buying a little bit more stock, but we're not going to know anything truly about who Alabama is until they travel down to Athens, Georgia to face on the Bulldogs. You're a team that got better this past week. You're a team that can get better this upcoming week. Does not mean I'm changing my opinion on you as a underwhelming roster that can't win the big one right now. And you especially can't win the big one on the road because it's very evident that you couldn't even beat Vanderbilt last season. Now you got Florida State to add to the mix.
Cole, any Bama thoughts? Any chance Wisconsin can go out and make this competitive?
Nope. Not even a little bit. I do think that if anything, you will see Alabama not get the cover of 21.5 points. That to me is a win for Wisconsin in itself. I just do not like what I've seen so far from this offensive personnel.
Backyard.
Am I wrong out of curiosity?
No, you're not. Even Danny O'Neal, he provided a spark. There was certainly an uptick for Wisconsin from week 1 to week 2 in terms of offensive production, even though you lost Billy Edwards Jr. Sounds like he's still in doubt for this game against Alabama, but also if Luke Fickell and company were really thinking they were going to win this thing, then Billy Edwards would make some sort of Herculean effort to be a part of it. I don't see Wisconsin putting up a tremendous fight. They're always sound and disciplined defensively, so they'll give Alabama a little trouble in the first half. But the Tide should handle this. But we said that against Florida State.
Yeah. Also, you were up 14-10 against an FBS school that lost to an FCS school the week before. Sorry if I do not buy a lot of stock into right now what's going on with Luke Fickell in year 3.
I couldn't bring myself to do a full preview on this after West Virginia blew it against Ohio, but any chance the Mountaineers bounce back in the backyard brawl against Pitt this weekend?
No, as a Penn Stater who is kind of like akin to the backyard brawl, I still like what Holstein and company are going to be able to do better than what West Virginia's put on tape at this point. Marchiol as a quarterback leaves so much to be desired. I feel for Rich Rod. Like, I really wanted to see that renaissance. Pat Smith is on the staff. Pat McAfee will tell you at least blue in the face that West Virginia is going to make a comeback here in the near future. I really do hope to see that in Morgantown at some point. It's just not going to happen against this Pitt team.
This game is in West Virginia, right?
Correct.
I think so. Yeah.
So theirs would have been probably the home because of who is on that panel for ESPN College Game Day this past week.
Yeah.
You lose to a G5 program. I'll give credit. They did have a good performance against Rutgers the week before, but you still lose to a G5 program, and you also lost Jakeem White for the season. Sorry, at this point, you deserve what's coming to you out in Morgantown this year. I knew it was going to be a rebuilding season. I like this Pitt team a lot more than most. I think Desmond Reed is still one of the most underappreciated running backs in Eli Holstein with Cade Bell as his offensive coordinator, one of the best dynamic duos in the ACC. I think that you see Pitt hammer away at this matchup out in Morgantown. And you know what? Punishment is well-deserved for not beating a G5 team and taking away a matchup in Morgantown for ESPN College Game Day. The Big 12 gets no respect, and large is because of this.
Yeah, I like Pitt here. I don't think they can slow Holstein down. So we'll see. I worry a ton for West Virginia in this matchup, but I do like. I would love to see them pull the upset. So we'll see. Last one. Who's your Heisman winner right now? Top 10 odds: Nussmeier, Mateer, Beck, Moore, Manning, Sellers, Stockton, Dampier, Allar, Smith, Sayin, Arnold, Castellanos is down there at like 12. Heisman pick right now.
I will go bold, and I will stick with my guns on who I think right now is the best quarterback in college football, and that is Sawyer Robertson from Baylor. I think that if he is able to continue to do what he is doing in terms of catapulting his team and throwing it over win after win after win, then I think somehow, some way he makes it to the Big Apple and wins the Heisman Trophy. A sleeper, though, Bo Pribula looks the part out in Columbia, Missouri, and they will have a schedule. And if you care about voting the way that most of these voters do, you see 10 plus wins, that's enough to go ahead and win you the award. So I will take Bo Pribula as a dark horse.
It's the Bo Show, baby. York, Pennsylvania. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if you listed him just a second ago. Jeremiah Love for Notre Dame. I really hope Notre Dame learned their lesson from the Miami game. He's the best running back in the country. He is your best bet offensively. Run the hell out of Jeremiah Love the rest of this season and see how Notre Dame has success. And also, this is about the national narrative. It's about the media hype. The media would love to get behind the Notre Dame running back who's got a great story and a great kid and a very talented player who's overcome injury and adversity, all those sorts of things. So give me Love.
Value pick only here. I hate to have this come out of my mouth, but
if you start Tommy Castellanos, I'm going to.
I'm not going there. Now, I'll tell you this. He goes off and they beat Miami to start 5-0. He'll be top 5 or 6 in odds. But I'll go the other side of the rivalry. I'll go Carson Beck has good odds at.
Wow.
Listen, I think they've got a trash schedule. Once they beat Florida, and then see what happens against Florida State. He goes on the road and gets that top 10 win as well. You're talking about 3 ranked wins in their first 5 games and a win against Florida, right? Which I know the Florida's down and we're all down on them right now. Man, he's going to skyrocket if they start out 5-0 with wins against USF, Notre Dame, and in Doak Campbell Stadium. I think Beck's a good value pick right now. Do I think he wins it ultimately? Probably not. So wide open this year, but I do think Beck's a good value pick at this moment. Makes me sick to say it, but I don't know. I try to be realistic sometimes.
No, I don't mean to go back to something in the past, but I feel like this is important. Kalen DeBoer just said in his press conference that John Marion Latham, J.M. Miller, and Tim Keenan are all probable to play against Wisconsin. So I'm actually switching my pick over to they will hit the over. If all 3 of those guys play, they will 100% hit the over. They will cover the spread.
I will say the darkest of dark horses to win the Heisman. He is held together by prayers and duct tape. He is the head of the law firm at Georgia Tech, Haynes King.
Oh my God.
It won't happen, but
can you win a Heisman only playing 8 games?
I would just love to see him like with the shoulder strap, like the kinesio tape, like all just limping to the huddle. Give me a Byron Leftwich moment for Haynes King at some point. That's what I want.
I'll tell you who I'm going to throw some money down on if somehow he gets a win this weekend. Byron Brown, and the way that he has looked, you have got to give him at least a little bit of respect. And here's the funny thing, guys, and we'll end with this. There is an opportunity for 2 teams in the group of 5 to potentially be undefeated playing for the American Conference Championship. Tulane still has matchups against Duke this weekend and then Ole Miss. And then you have this win against Miami. Could we have 2 G5 programs make the college football playoff?
If they're both undefeated with wins at Duke and then wins at Ole Miss and then wins at Florida and wins at Miami, you got to.
I don't think you can leave them out.
I think you have to, because you can't penalize somebody for going to. I will stand by that for the Alabama fans. You couldn't penalize SMU last year for going to a conference championship. You can't do the same thing the next year. You can't penalize one of these two teams, which would have multiple ranked wins. Well, Duke won't be a ranked win for Tulane, but
it's power 4 win.
Yeah, you can't penalize there. I think you're spot on, and I am rooting for that for the rest of the year. I will be the biggest Tulane and USF fan that you've ever seen.
I will love to hear the fact that potentially one team goes undefeated, the other team goes 11-1, and then the team that's 11-1 gets the upset over the undefeated team. Do you punish the team that didn't get promised a spot? Also, there's many a way for this to actually become a reality.
Oh my gosh.
And honestly, just for college football sickos, I kind of want it.
No, I don't kind of want it. I want it. TJ Pittinger, Cole Thompson, Tom Hannifan. Thank you guys for hanging out today. Make sure you are subscribed over on the YouTube. College Football Addiction here is the channel. The Power 2 is the show. We'll be back Monday to recap, hopefully some fun upsets. There's a lot of good stuff this weekend. So sit down on a couch and be a bum and enjoy it. And we'll be back with you on Monday.
Watch more games than an AP voter this weekend.
So 2? You just want people to watch 2 games this weekend?